What's going on, guys? My name is Jake, and welcome back to Gax Reviews. Yes, I have not said that in a while. I apologize. And no, I will not be discussing why I left for like 2 years. Just go with it. Just roll with it. We got a lot to talk about with this video. I'm going to be talking about the Toronto International Film Festival. Yes, that was a month ago. I'm sorry. Also to that, there has been a lot going on in the past month. But finally, I have time to sit down and talk about the films that I saw at TIFF this year because I was press. This is the first year I was ever given press to this festival that I've been going to for half a decade now. And this year is probably the most stacked year that TIFF has been in a long time. Yes, they had a lot of issues last year regarding the SAG-AFTRA strike and not having any of the actors and directors in person. They rebounded in a big way this year, especially with their lineup, and I got to see 22 of these films. Some of these have already released in theaters, like The Substance. Some of them have not come out in theaters yet, like The Brutalists, but we're going to be going to every single one of them. I'm going to be ranking them from 22 to 1. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn. This is probably going to be a long one. I'm not going to try to go super in-depth because it's a lot to talk about, but I'm excited to talk about them all. If you guys want to go down in that comment section below, let me know what movies you're excited for. Let's get into this. Coming in at my last place is Riff Raff. And really, what is there to say about Riff Raff other than you've seen this movie 1,000 times before? It's exactly what you expect. And the cast carries it. It's a fine movie. It's perfectly watchable. You're not going to remember it after like 2 hours, and that's basically what I did because there was a gap in my schedule that I went to watch this. And I love Jennifer Coolidge. Not enough to sit through this movie again, though. Coming in at number 21 is Presence. This is the newest Steven Soderbergh film, a ghost story that will be released by Neon in January. January's low-key a little stacked, am I right? Mickey 17, you got this coming out. There's a lot more that is also coming out that month that actually looks good. Maybe it won't be a dead January. This, I don't think, is going to help the month, though, at least from mine. I feel like I'm a little bit more negative than a lot of other people were with this film, and that's mainly just because I'm not really a big fan of what Soderbergh's been doing recently. I appreciate him for just kind of going off the rails and doing whatever he wants, his iPhone techniques, the up-closes. This one specifically, he uses the camera to flow kind of like a ghost because that's kind of what the story is. It's kind of cool, but, you know, just overall, I didn't really connect with the film. The third act especially, I think, takes a very interesting direction that I don't think pays off and made me very confused, and I didn't really love it. But other than that, it's a well-acted film. The direction's pretty good. And I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy this. It just wasn't really for me, so I give it 2.5 stars. Coming in at number 20 is The Last Showgirl. I was at the world premiere for this. Pretty cool experience to see a bunch of actors, a bunch of big-name actors all in one room. Even Macaulay Culkin, shout out to him. I completely forget that he's married to Brenda Song, who is in this movie. But the main driving factor of this film is Pamela Anderson. This is the first time, even she said it in the Q&A afterwards, that she's been given a script that is legible and makes sense. And obviously, she did Baywatch for the longest time. She's coming back here. This is supposed to be her big break back into a serious drama role, and she does well. I don't think she's great. I think she's really good in certain scenes, and the role is definitely fit for her. And I think that the performances elevate, which is a very standard movie and a movie that everyone has seen before, but it's one that is emotional and people are going to really connect with. I didn't certainly connect with it, and I think that the movie is also kind of just meanders a little bit. So I didn't love it as much as a lot of other people did. So I gave it 2.5 stars, but I think a lot of people are going to connect with this. And for a movie with Pamela Anderson in the lead, it's a lot better than I expected it to be. Coming in at 19 is Emilia Perez. Please do not kill me. I'm sorry. I was looking forward to this after Cannes and seeing all the hype, it winning Best Ensemble and like splitting its Best Actress with 3 different people. And you can see why. They're all really good in this movie, specifically the lead. I just don't really love the stylistic elements around it. I don't like Baz Luhrmann films, and the entire time this movie was taking place, it felt like a Baz Luhrmann film. And kind of all the worst parts of a Baz Luhrmann film. There's a lot of times where the musical songs just kind of pop out of nowhere and are kind of annoying. There's one specifically in the beginning with a drug dealer that he speaks like this and he talks like this and he goes like this, and it's just kind of grating. And that's how I felt for most of this film. I think the story is really cool, and I think the performances as well carry a lot of the faults within the narrative script. But there's no denying the power of this movie is, and it's certainly stylistic, and if you love that type of stuff, you might like this a lot more than I did. I just couldn't really get into it, and I gave it 2.5 stars. Coming in at number 18, this looks so insane when you put it side by side with Emilia Perez. Piece by Piece, yes, this is that Lego film with Pharrell Williams' life biopic. Everyone has talked to death about how biopics are just so boring and follow the same pattern, and this does do that with its story, but is able to elevate a little bit more with Legos. Yes, I'm a sucker for Lego. I love the Lego movies. I'm glad that it's kind of back in some way, but it takes that biopic that which could have been so boring and no one really cares about Pharrell, let's be honest, like no one is asking for this movie, and gives it like a fresh layer being set in a Lego universe. If you ever want to watch Lego Kendrick Lamar or Lego Snoop Dogg, so have some funny jokes with smoking in the Lego universe, but they say shit also, which that doesn't really make sense because it's peach. It's fine. It's a perfectly watchable movie. There's a Black Lives Matter movement in it. It's kind of bizarre to watch, but it's kind of cute at the same time. I don't remember anything of the movie, but he is an impactful figure in music. So if you want to learn more about his story, it's out there. I give it 3 stars. Coming in at number 17 is Daniela Forever. And I was a little bit surprised coming out of my screening, seeing the mixed reaction, because everyone loves Henry Golding. He hasn't been given anything, a lick of substance at all, aside from the rom-com universe. And this is a rom-com, but it's set in sci-fi, so that immediately gets bumped up an extra marks for me. I don't think that the movie really goes to the next level, and its themes are certainly laid out there and explored in interesting ways. I like when death is dichotomized with sci-fi. I think there's interesting ways that you can talk about that. I don't think it fully lands the way it intended to do, but it is carried by the performances, and Henry Golding is definitely given the most to chew out of that he has in his entire career so far. He's so charismatic. He has a lot of dramatic scenes that really worked for me, and I think that a lot of people are going to like it. I think it's a fun 2-hour film. It's a little long. It overstays its welcome just a little bit, but I give it 3 stars. Oh my god, I just keep going with the takes. Queer. Luca Guadagnino is one of my favorite directors out there right now. Hearing that he had another film coming out this year that was primed for award seasoning had me very excited. I love Challengers. I love his other films, so this felt like it was going to be right up my alley, right? It wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. It is what you've heard. If you've read the books, people do say that the book is strange, and it handles it in a very interesting way. People who like the book, who have read the book, were probably prepared for some of the things that he was able to do. I wasn't. I think that third act switch up was really bizarre, especially when you contrast it to the first true. And yet it has that underlying layer of dream with the cinematography and the production design, which is also immaculate, with 2 great performances, and probably Daniel Craig's best performance in general, if I wasn't such a homer for Benoit Blanc in the Knives Out franchise. It didn't land for me, and it felt like it meandered a little bit throughout its entire runtime. That third act especially was so strange and felt more in tune of what I expected from a Luca Guadagnino stuff. It just didn't feel like it served for the movie that we were watching, and it felt super bizarre, pulled me out a little bit. If the rest of the movie was like that, I probably would have enjoyed it overall more, and I think it does stick the themes it's going for. I just couldn't really get into it as much as I wanted to, and left the theater pretty disappointed. I still give it 3 stars. I think there's a lot that makes up for its merits with the technicalities and just how stunning of a director Luca actually is. The performances, that it is worth a watch, and people are probably going to take more out of it than I did. I just wish I connected with it a little bit more. Speaking of another movie with a strange third act, The Piano Lesson. This is at my number 15. Yeah, not too much to say about this. Play adaptations normally don't stick well for me, and they're meant to be on Broadway for a reason. This did a lot more than I was expecting to with the circumstances it was given. It didn't feel like it was super secluded into one space, and that goes a lot to Malcolm Washington's direction, who I think is very promising. That's probably the one thing that can take out this movie that I liked the most, aside from Danielle Deadwyler, who should get nominated, should get rectified for all of her performances that she has not been nominated before. This is the one. She's so great in there. And a little sneaky performance as well by Ray Fisher, who got my audience clapping multiple times. The cast is all great. I do think John David Washington is a little over the top, and it probably would have worked a lot better on Broadway versus a movie, because he was just kind of out there, and it took me out a little bit. And that third act specifically does bring in some paranormal elements that were certainly teased throughout the runtime. And I get it. If that is what the play is, you're not going to stray away from that. And the actual usage of it is really good and shows a lot of promise with Malcolm Washington. And I would love to see him take on a full-on horror movie, because I certainly think he has the chops for it. Other than that, it's a fine movie. It goes by pretty easy. It's breezy. It's snappy. I give it 3 stars. Coming in at number 14 is The Seed of the Sacred Fig. And this is a weird screening for me, because TIFF had a lot of security around there, and there's a security guard literally standing right behind me, constantly whacking me with his legs the entire time. Not only that, it took place at 10 o'clock at night, so I was exhausted watching this. In general, though, I think it is a really good movie and very strong and powerful performances overall. I did want it to push the envelope a little bit more, especially within the first act and second act. I think there's room for it to be a little bit more empowering, because it doesn't really push the envelope as far as things that we haven't seen. It doesn't really give you 2 sides to chew onto. It tries to, but one side is certainly a lot more prevalent than the other, and you understand one side more than the other. So it's a little bit harder for you to get either side of it, which is what I thought the movie was going into when I was expecting going into the movie. But it's a very well done film. The direction is great. The performances are all excellent, specifically from the daughter and the mom. I really liked the two of them. And it is powerful and it is haunting at times, and that third act is crazy. It is everything you've heard about there. And I give it 3.5 stars overall. I don't have too much complaints with it, and I don't know why I couldn't go a little bit higher of it. But when I look back at the festival, this just kind of hovers around that middle of the mark territory. A really good movie that I think a lot of people will like, and I don't necessarily think it will get into Best Picture, but I think it is worth a watch. Definitely, I give it 3.5 stars. Coming in at number 13, a film that has still not been picked up by distribution yet. Eden. This is Ron Howard's newest film. Ron Howard has been all over the place for the past decade plus, but one consistency with his films is always that heart and love that he puts into it. And it's like he just looked at himself in the mirror and said, I'm done doing that, because this is the darkest, bleakest film I can remember him making. There's a lot of dark comedy in here. There's a lot of dark elements that I think really work, especially the campy performances from Ana de Armas, who steals this entire movie. And overall, I just kind of dug the whole vibe. It was a big switch up from him, and I think it really worked. It does overstay its welcome just a little bit, but the performances are really what is the stick out here. And it has a really cool ending, a really fun ending. This is somehow based on a true story. I have no idea how that is even possible, but once it does get its distribution, I feel like a streaming service will eventually pick this up. It's definitely worth a watch. I can see a lot of people really liking this. I give it 3.5 stars. Coming at number 12 is Night Bitch, and yes, I am surprised by how high this is up on my list, because that trailer looked bad, but thankfully we can all lower the pitchforks because the movie is not nearly as bad as that trailer set it out to be. Amy Adams has had quite the interesting direction since her stellar performance in Arrival, and hasn't really been able to have a film that has utilized her talents the way that it can. Night Bitch does that, and it's grateful to watch her finally be in a really good movie. She has some killer monologues, whether it's internally or externally, and for a premise that's so out there and bizarre about a woman who is turning into a dog, to believe that and buy into that takes a strong performance, and that's exactly what this was. I think there's going to be so many people out there that are going to relate to this, whether it be parents, moms, and that's definitely the target audience that it's going for. But there's also some other themes of repetition and cycle and living the same moments in life and breaking out of that rut that I think people can connect with, and that's certainly the element that I did. It's also really funny and has some really funny standout scenes. I think a lot of people are going to like this, and I hopefully, fingers crossed, Amy Adams is coming for that Oscar, because she damn deserves it. Coming in at number 11 is Baby Girl. This is a movie that I was anticipating, and it came kind of out of nowhere, but if you watch Bodies, you know why you're excited for this movie, because I love that movie. I think it's so funny, it's so clever, so twisty, and this has a lot of the same elements in there. Granted, very different substance material, and a lot of people are kind of turned off about it. The reviews are positive, but also I've seen some people a bit more mixed because they're like, oh, not for me, sex in movies, blah, all that stuff. I thought it was a lot of fun. Nicole Kidman is arguably the best performance of the year. I'm not even kidding. She's not going to get nominated because we know this is what the Academy does. They're not going to do it. She should, because she's excellent and sells that relationship so well with Harrison Dickinson. He's also tremendous. I don't think the film pushes the bar further, and for how messy it does get in the second and third act, I think it cleans it up just a little bit too tidy, and I wanted it to keep pushing this relationship and their dynamic. I wanted to see a bit more of that. It didn't feel like we fully got the full effects that we could have, and I felt a little bit disappointed walking out, but it's still a really fun movie, really funny movie, really interesting movie that people are going to really like. I give it 3.5 stars as well. We're in the top 10 now, and I'm starting off my top 10 with Heretic. This is A24's film that comes out next month, early November. This is a movie that I was really excited for and was surprised that TIFF was even playing it, and I liked it a lot. The performances are excellent. Hugh Grant is the clear standout here, especially when you put a film on his back like that. You know the monologues he can do. He's so scary, so funny, so charismatic, so charming. He has all of that wrapped up into one little ball talking about religion and what it truly means to believe in something that you can't actually see. There's a lot of fun scenes, memorable scenes of them discussing this dichotomy. I just dug it a lot. I do think it's a little predictable. Well, it does fall into some cliches towards the third act, and it does also, again, kind of same thing, wraps up a little bit too neatly for my liking. But in general, I came out of this thinking a lot, and this is a movie that I think will get better on subsequent rewatches. And considering that this is made by the two duo that made 65, yes, they're the writers of A Quiet Place, but 65 just came out last year and that was bad. This is a good step up, so I give it 3.5 stars. Coming at number 9, it's still insane for me to say this, is the People's Choice Award winning The Life of Chuck by Mike Flanagan, a director that I have so much admiration and love for. I actually got a chance to meet him and talk to him, and here's a photo of me. You can see I'm so blurry, but so happy in the photo. Whether it's through his TV shows or his movies, I still stand by that Mike Flanagan is one of the best modern horror directors out there. And to see him move away completely from the horror franchise and still keep some elements in there, because yes, this is Stephen King. Yes, this still gets a little weird, tells its story in reverse, starts from Act 3 and goes all the way to Act 1. You're always wondering who the hell this Chuck Krantz guy is. But it keeps the one consistency in his horror movies, which is people and talking about certain elements within people and discussing what it means to live life. That is something that is a massive through line throughout all of his properties. And you can tell that he really cared for this story in particular, because in the Q&A he was talking about how he read this during COVID and it changed his life in perspective and how short life is and how you only have one life and to live that life. And to see him put that into a movie like this with so much heart, enthusiasm, love, it shows. I didn't love it as much as I've loved his other stuff. And yeah, I was a little thrown off by it not being a horror film, not gonna lie. If I also wasn't sitting on 7 hours of movie watching that day, I think I probably could have loved it more. But there's a clear reason why it won People's Choice Award, because it's tugging at so many people's heartstrings. The performances are all great. That second act is one of my favorite scenes of the year. I could not tell if it was the scene that was clapping or my entire audience. I think it was a bit of both. And it just overall, I have a really cool feeling about this movie. I hate the release date. It sucks that it gets next year's, and I hope that Neon does it well and tries to campaign it for Best Picture, because, my God, if my favorite horror directors gets into Best Picture for a film that's not horror, that's going to blow my mind. I give it 3.5 stars. I really liked it. Live from my number 8 position, it's Saturday Night. I have not been the biggest Saturday Night Live fan because, yeah, it hasn't been great as of lately. That's beating a dead horse. Just besides the point. This is about the 90 minutes leading up to the first ever episode of Saturday Night, and I think it's fun. It's a lot of chaos. People always go, whenever there's chaos and stuff thrown at the screen constantly, always go, this is like Uncut Gems because so much is happening at once. This is like Uncut Gems because so much is happening at once. There is so much overlapping each other, whether it's the banging score or the constant dialogue, people just yapping at each other and screaming and yelling. It's very chaotic. It's a lot of fun, though it does require you to know who these people are. It doesn't necessarily give you more than what it is on its surface level. It's like, here's Bellucci, here's Chevy Chase, all these different people, Lorne Michaels. If you don't know who they are, you're going to get lost in certain elements because it doesn't care if you know them or not. It's just like, these are them. They act like them. The cast is pitch perfect. Every single one, top to bottom, are so good. So exciting to watch. And I think that's a bit of a deter to the film because some people are going to walk out being like, I don't know who these people are and I didn't really take much away from it. I don't think the film cares. It's unapologetically a love letter to that era and to a show that has spanned so many generations that I couldn't help but adore for what it was. It's Jason Reitman's best film by far. I don't even think it's close. And I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Coming in at number 7 is The Assessment. This is one of my favorite gems from the festival because I knew nothing about this movie beforehand, aside from its cast, and went, ooh, I like Elizabeth Olsen. Oh, I like Alicia Vikander. It's sci-fi, and it's exactly what you expect from those 3 things put together. Every time that Alicia Vikander is in an original sci-fi film, you know it's time to pay attention, and this is no different. Fleur Fortune has some of the best direction I have seen in sci-fi in so long, and is able to craft a really engaging sci-fi world. And this premise that's I also thought was a lot of fun. You know, you have 7 days, you're staying with someone who's assessing whether you can have a kid or not for dystopian reasons, and it's kind of like a mystery, kind of like a what the hell is going on, thriller elements are getting added in there, and they all really work for me. It has some incredible set pieces, it's got a great script, a lot of dark tones in the movie that really work for some good dark humor pieces, but I wouldn't be shocked if this ended up being something that audiences really connected to. Amazon MGM has the rights for it. I hope they push it because I think a lot of people will really, really like this and it could become a cult classic. I give it 4 out of 5. I have been talking for a long time. Number 6 now, almost done. Edward Berger's newest film, Conclave. He did the All Quiet on the Western Front remake that came basically out of nowhere, got nominated for Best Picture, won a crap ton of awards, and this is probably going to be the same thing. There's been a bit more hype to it, obviously, because Ralph Fiennes is attached to it. God damn, every time this guy is in a movie, do I remember how good he is, and he is excellent here. He is going to be nomination bound, of course, as this film in general. It has so many great set designs. The cinematography is gorgeous. The score is great. It is a little bit repetitious, and it's used in some scenes that I don't think needs a score, but if you have a good score, flaunt it, and that's what the movie tries to do. And it's just really interesting for a movie about popes and electing a new pope, kind of looking at some of the controversies surrounding that and the rigged system surrounding it. Has a bit more of like a flair of Knives Out than I was expecting. That goes towards the murder mystery side. It's a lot of fun. It has a crazy ending that is the same as the book, and if you buy it, you buy it. If you don't buy it, you probably will not like the end. That's where people are mostly the sticking point of this movie. If you love it, it's based on the ending. If you don't love it, it's because of the ending. So I'm interested to see what more people think of it when it comes out to more wide release in November. But I love this thing so much more than I was expecting it to. I gave it 4, probably go higher to 4.5, honestly, on a rewatch. But this is one to be on the lookout for. Coming in at number 5 is my biggest gem of the festival. That is Friendship. I have never watched a single thing by Tim Robinson, but I saw the photo of him and Paul Rudd with the mustache. He looks like Brian Fantana, and I was like, is this a straight up comedy that we haven't seen in years? Those types of midnight comedies that you turn on with your friends, watch, just laugh at the stupidest things you've ever seen, thinking Anchorman, Step Brothers, in that vein. Yeah, considering that Paul Rudd is basically playing Brian Fantana from Anchorman in this movie, you know you're in for a good time. This is Tim Robinson's first feature performance, and my God, is he funny. He is so stupid. He has so many scenes where he's just overacting, him screaming all the time, and people I know hate that sometimes, but it really works in here. It pushes the envelope with what it means to be friends. He has such good chemistry with Paul Rudd. The two of them are so stupid. There's so many funny scenes between the two of them, and then when their falling out happens, inevitably, trying to get back to that relationship, the dumb lengths that Tim Robinson does to try and get back into the good books with him, the jealousy, the anger, the angst, all of it is on full display, and it's so funny. I have not laughed this long in a movie. It's one of the stupidest drug scenes I've ever seen in my life, and every time I thought that a scene was going to go a specific way, it took a sharp turn in a way that I was not expecting. I think that so many people are going to love this thing when it comes out. A24 got the rights for it. It makes way too much sense. I hope that they give this a wide release because so many people deserve to see this in a packed theater. That's where I saw it, and I have not laughed this hard since. I can't wait to watch it again. I give it 4 stars. Coming in at number 4 is The Wild Robot. I actually ended my festival with this movie, and I know that it was coming out a week later, but I was one of the first people on the hype train of this movie because goddamn did this thing look gorgeous, and it had everything lined up for me to love it. I love Chris Saunders. He made one of my favorite childhood movies in How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch. How was I not going to love this? DreamWorks, when they have everything hitting, the director, the writing, the acting performances, the gorgeous animation, the beautiful bolstering score that they are known for. I think How to Train Your Dragon in my head immediately. That score is embodied in my veins, all right? This is the closest we got to it in a movie that tugged my heartstrings in all the other ways that made me feel like it was a warm hug the entire time. It's not like the most original thing in the world that you've seen, right? Like we've seen this movie 1,000 times before. You know how it's ending. It's not giving you these massive twists in it, but it doesn't need to. When you have a story that works as well as it does, with everything hitting on all the fronts, to make an animated film that kids are going to love, that adults love sitting through, that has some really funny jokes that adults connect to, that's everything. It's like a literal check mark of everything I want, with animation that's pushing the boundary of animation. In 2024, when it feels like we've seen everything, they still are finding new ways to push the genre, and this is another one of the movies that do that. I want to go watch it again. I can't wait to watch it again. I give it 4.5 stars. It's one of my favorite films of the year. Into my top 3 now is The Brutalist, and this movie came out of basically nowhere this fall festival after all of the love that it got at Venice. It had one screening at TIFF, one press screening, and I was lucky enough to get in there after waiting 2.5 hours to get in, and then watched a 3.5 hour movie. It was a lot. I'm going to get the negative out of the way first. It is too long, right? Like, you immediately look into a movie that's 3.5 hours as an intermission in the middle, and thank God for that, because more movies need to put that in there. The subject matter is pretty heavy. It's brutal. It's called The Brutalist for a reason, but so many things are just firing on all cylinders with this movie. I'm not even the biggest fan of Adrian Brody, and he blew me away. Within seconds, this movie just shows you exactly what's coming out for. Has such a memorable opening scene, and everything else builds towards a film that I think is an epic that we don't see a lot of anymore these types of years. Like, this is the type of like Godfather-esque film that is just a director flaunting everything that he can with such a small budget and is able to make something that looks as incredible as it does, with all of the performances that are all great. Guy Pearce especially is also tremendous. I think most of the people in the film that have a lot of screen time are going to get nominated. Yeah, it's a tough watch. It's a very emotional watch. It's a brutal watch. It is also up there as one of the year's best films. And bring back intermissions. This is a lost art. I don't want to keep sitting through all these long movies. This did it perfectly, ends in a perfect spot, keeps you wanting more. The amount of hype that people were going was buzzing is great. Go watch it. Coming in at number 2 is a film that has been taking over cinephiles all of September into October into spooky season. That is The Substance. I love body horror. You know, I sit and scramble through most of them, and I'm like, I get that icky feeling, but I never get it to the level that I did with this movie. My God, I have never seen someone sprint out full-fledged out of a movie, like literally head down running out of this theater for the last 30 minutes, because it takes some of the craziest turns I have ever seen a movie take, and it's so good. It knows exactly what it's doing. It's so over the top. It's hyper stylized. It's gross. It's sexy. It's all of these things that you've heard it out to be. It is one of the craziest movies I have ever seen. Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley are tremendous. I loved both of their performances, and they do so well throughout the entire thing. I don't want to spoil much of it because you've probably heard about this movie and you're probably like, is it really going to be for me? If you can stomach it, it's worth watching, because wow, I have never had an experience like this. Hearing my audience react to whatever the hell was happening in that third act was an experience I won't forget in a long time. I also gave it 4.5 stars, one of the best films of the year. We have made it all the way to the number 1 spot, and it should come as no surprise, the movie that everyone has talked about all year long, Anora. This goes to show how good this movie is because Sean Baker is someone that I heard all throughout my degree with film. Oh my God, Sean Baker's the best. He is cinema. He is cinema incorporated. Every single indie person was like, oh, when you like indies, you like Sean Baker. And I kind of had a bias against Sean Baker because of that, honestly. And I don't love some of his other films. I do like The Florida Project. I just don't love it as much as other people do. This is a movie that is going to capture everyone. Mikey Madison is incredible. I knew she had talent. I didn't know she had talent like this. The chemistry that she has with the guy that looks like Timothée Chalamet and has even said that Timothée Chalamet is like a massive idol of his, makes a lot of sense. They're so good. The film is so funny. It takes a lot of areas I thought I wasn't expecting, but still has a lot of that Sean Baker charm of connectment and looking at different minorities. This is a tough film to try and juggle all the different tones that it has, because it really is flipping constantly, and it takes someone with a master skill like Sean Baker to make it as invested as I was, and to end and take me on a literal roller coaster that felt like a sugar rush, both the highs and the lows. You feel it all the entire time. It's so funny, has some of the funniest scenes I've seen. It's such a smartly scripted film, tremendous performances all around. It's the most enthralled and entertained I think I've been all year long, and it's probably going to win Best Picture, right? Like, you look at this, you're like, this can't win Best Picture. The subject matter of it, like, is this really going to win Best Picture? Yeah, in my assessment, it's going to win Best Picture. It's one of the best films by far this year. It's at 4.5 stars. I think on a rewatch, I'm probably going to give it 5. This is by far and away Sean Baker's magnum opus. Like, it's not even close, and I'm glad I'm on the right side of history for it. And that is the Toronto International Film Festival 2024. Done and dusted. I need to go drink some water because my mouth is dry. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is going to be the start of me making some more videos. So hold on. I'll be back. I'll be making more. But I will once again want to shout out TIFF for involving me in this year's festival and for allowing me to cover it. It was a dream come true of mine, and everything they said about film festivals is true. I was very tired the entire festival, but it was very rewarding, and I can't wait to do it again next year. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like it, if you can go down to the comment section below, talk to me about films, anything that you like, leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.